Are you ready?
Yep.
Good morning, America.
Morning.
If you thought Sophie Cunningham's spotlight would fade this offseason, think again. From launching her podcast to landing commercials to scoring national TV appearances, Sophie has turned herself into one of the WNBA's most recognizable and marketable stars. But now, out of nowhere, it looks like her time in Indiana might be coming to an end. On her latest podcast, Sophie dropped a shocking bombshell, sparking major doubts about her future with the Fever and fans. Already furious at the organization for failing to maximize and appreciate Caitlin Clark, are asking the question nobody in Indiana wants to hear. Are the Fever really willing to lose the one player who publicly stood up for Caitlin? Today, we're breaking down exactly what Sophie just revealed, what she wants in her next contract, and the two big reasons the Fever could completely fumble this situation. But first, hit that like button if you think Indiana should keep Sophie. If you disagree, drop it in the comments. Because Sophie has been everywhere this offseason. Just days ago, she was spotted at a NASCAR event in Phoenix, hanging out with none other than Sydney Sweeney, who went viral for that now famous see-through dress. And she's not just showing up, she's leveling up. Sophie was front and center in a brand new Adidas campaign promoting Damian Lillard's latest signature shoe, solidifying her status as one of the most in-demand marketable faces in the WNBA right now. She didn't make Forbes' list of America's most powerful women in sports, where Caitlin Clark secured the number 4 spot alongside stars like Napheesa Collier, Breanna Stewart, and A'ja Wilson. But let's be real. Outside of Caitlin Clark, there might not be a single WNBA player more popular with casual fans than Sophie Cunningham.
The Indiana Fever did not quit posting social media content involving Caitlin Clark. They still continuously posted stuff. But that does show you the power of a Sophie Cunningham as well. We've talked about her on Google Trends and sort of like where she ranks in the echelon. I believe she was like the 3rd most searched WNBA player in the league for a certain span of months. And that all has monetary value.
You could argue that Caitlin Clark's 3 3-pointers in 38 seconds against the Liberty was the single greatest basketball moment of the 2025 season. And sure, the rubber objects being thrown on the court was easily the strangest. But the most important moment, that belonged to Sophie Cunningham. When she absolutely leveled JCS Sheldon up to that point, players had been taking cheap shots at Caitlin Clark every week, and nobody stepped in to defend her. The frustration was building. The disrespect was non-stop. The silence was deafening. And then finally, someone stood up for the face of the league. That was the moment Sophie Cunningham went from fan favorite to folk hero. Her jerseys sold out. Her follower count exploded. Overnight, she went from a role player to a national storyline. And she stayed there thanks to her podcast, her pregame fits, her TikToks, and those perfectly timed viral sound bites. We'll get into those in a second. But here's the real key. It wasn't just Sophie's personal brand that blew up. She created massive value for the Fever. A recent report found that the Indiana Fever now have the most valuable social media presence in the entire WNBA, worth an estimated $55 million. For comparison, the second-place Dallas Wings sit at $8.6 million. Angel Reese and the Sky, 5th. It's not even close. And with Caitlin Clark sidelined for most of the season, meaning fewer highlights and fewer viral moments, there's zero question that a huge chunk of that value came directly from Sophie Cunningham.
Kid yourselves. Being good looking helps. It helped Tom Brady. I mean, go down the list of good looking male athletes that have been bankable and that have gone on to make a lot of money. Michael Jordan, being good looking dudes and being great players. Sophie Cunningham, I think she's next up. She is the next superstar in the WNBA. Sophie Cunningham, international sports celebrity.
And here's the thing. Sophie is only just beginning to tap into her star power. She's a sports marketer's dream, a fierce, high-impact competitor who moves the needle on the court and a natural attention magnet off of it.
Here, September the 11th is when Sophie Cunningham went on a absolute tirade She went on a path of destruction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games where when this team was still trying to make the playoffs, she went bananas. That first game right there, 16 points, 10 rebounds, 13, 11, 12, 15, 15, 12, 17, 18 points, 16 points, 14 points.
Between Caitlin and Sophie, the Fever have something no other WNBA team can claim. The two most marketable players in the entire league, both with massive crossover appeal. But here's the problem. Caitlin is under contract for 2 more seasons. Sophie isn't. Her deal is up, and she is now officially a free agent. From a business standpoint, this should be the easiest decision the Fever make all offseason. Re-signing Sophie isn't just smart, it's profitable, and it makes just as much sense on the court. Sophie consistently shows up when it matters most. This was the season where Indiana needed contributions beyond Caitlin Clark to reach the playoffs, and before her injury, Sophie was one of the biggest reasons they got there. Right here. September 11th is...
Sophie Cunningham had her best season of her career last year. Sophie Cunningham, you could argue, was the best player on the Fever in the Commissioner's Cup final when they won. And there were big games when the Phoenix Mercury, when they went to Phoenix, and we looked shell-shocked. We looked shell-shocked against Phoenix. They destroyed us. The only reason it wasn't a 45-point game was Sophie Cunningham willing the Fever back into that game by herself. And I'm looking at this, and people are so like, oh, she's just a clout chaser. People are so like against Sophie Cunningham personally, some people, that you fail to realize she is literally irreplaceable.
She might not be the fastest player on the floor or the top scorer every night, but when you look at the complete package, her skill set, her leadership, her toughness, and the energy she brings on and off the court, Sophie Cunningham is nearly impossible to replace with just one player.
I love it, and I think the next team I play for, I want a bigger contract, so then I can buy a house and be homey and cozy.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. That could be the Liberty. It could be New York City. It could also be the Lynx, and it could be Minneapolis. Like, you just don't know.
And as for her injury, there's zero reason to worry. Sophie is already back in training, moving well, and expected to be fully ready by the time the next WNBA season tips off. So health isn't the issue here. The real question is whether the Fever are smart enough to keep her, and that's what makes this next clip so concerning for Indiana fans. On her podcast, when the topic of her next contract came up, Sophie dropped some serious uncertainty, casting real doubt on whether she plans to stay in
Now
Indiana.
the question is, what is she talking about as far as the deal goes? Are we talking $400,000 a year over the next 4 years? That's house money. That's enough for a house. $600,000 per year over the next 4 years. What, a 4-year, $24 million contract? $2.4 million contract, excuse me. 4-year, $2.4 million contract. She gets $600,000 a year. That's enough for a house. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a max contract to get Sophie Cunningham to stay on the Indiana Fever. It just needs to be a quality contract. We respect what you've done for our franchise contract. We understand what you contribute to this team contract. We're not going to undervalue your contribution contract. That's all it needs to be.
I don't care what anyone says. When she ends that statement with, "It could be anywhere," that does not sound like someone who's 100% committed to returning to her current team. It's one thing to keep it real behind closed doors with friends and family, but saying it publicly on your own podcast, when you know thousands of people are listening, that's intentional. That's a message. And it's pretty clear she is not locked in on coming back to the Fever, which raises the obvious question, why? What exactly is Sophie looking for in her next contract? We already heard her say she wants to buy a house. And sure, most people would point out that she makes far more from brand deals than from her WNBA salary. So buying a home shouldn't be a problem, but buying a house isn't just about money, it's about stability. You don't drop that kind of investment unless you know you're going to be in one place for a while. The last thing she wants is to buy a home and then end up switching teams every year. So she's almost certainly looking for a long-term fit. Security, stability, and yes, the right money, cash, and term. And when it comes to the money part, she's probably not asking for anything outrageous